Did you know in the Garfield movie? When Garfield unlocks his phone, the number that he puts in is 061978, which is a reference to the debut of the original Garfield comic series, which came out in June of 1978. When Garfield opens his food app, you can see that he's ordering from Mama Leone's. And this is a playoff of the real-life Italian restaurant that was located in New York City called Mama Leone's. When Garfield addresses the audience, you can see that his love for lasagna is ever present, as there's a handmade stitched picture in the background with his favorite food choice on it. There's a mistake when we see Garfield's past, as you can clearly hear rain falling somewhere around them. But no matter which direction the camera's facing, there's not a drop scene falling from the sky. Before young Garfield crosses the road to get to the restaurant, you can spot a store nearby that's called Lorenzo's Music Store. This is a reference to Garfield's original voice actor from the original series, where Lorenzo Music provided the voice. When John's sitting in his chair reading a book, he's seen reading The Great Gatsby, but the eyeballs seen on the cover of the book resemble Garfield's eyeballs and smirk. When Garfield sits down to watch TV with John and Dodie, Garfield's iconic teddy bear makes its first appearance as he holds it. This is Pookie. When Monday comes around, John takes Garfield to the vet, and the vet taking care of him is named Liz, who ended up being John's long-term girlfriend in the comics, but even though most of their dates ended in disaster, she finally admitted she had feelings for him in 2006. After Garfield takes over John's seating section, you can see that John was reading a book based off Romeo and Juliet, but this one's called Romeo and Muliet. After dogs break into Garfield's house, he stands in front of the open refrigerator door, and the 2-liter bottle of soda seen sitting in the door is called a Kitty brand of soda. There's a mistake scene when Jinx's henchman pours milk for everyone, as the level of milk changes between the time he pours milk for Jinx, the time he pours milk for Vic, and the time he's already poured milk for Garfield, where it appeared to almost be completely full still. During Jinx's flashback sequence, you can see that she dreamed of being on America's Next Top Feline. This is a reference to the real-life reality show America's Next Top Model. When John calls out for Garfield, he looks all over the house, and when he opens the front door, you can see that he has a ping pong table set up against the wall so that he can play with himself, which reiterates the fact that John's still alone. When Garfield's trying to get on the train, you can see a guy eating a donut outside his camper. The brand name of the tires that he has is called Lazy Cats, to go along with the Garfield theme. When John's trying to find Garfield, you can see that he's eating a bowl of Binky-O cereal. And Binky the Clown has been part of the Garfield comics since 1985. When Garfield runs into Otto on the hill, you can see that he's got a walking stick in his hand. But this is actually the broken piece of his horn that was once his right side. After Otto shows Garfield that the roadkill is his totem, Garfield says,
"Well, then little Daniel Day Possum here should do Shakespeare in the park."
Which is a reference to Daniel Day-Lewis, who joined the Royal Shakespeare Company and played Romeo in Romeo and Juliet, and he also played flute in A Midsummer Night's Dream. When Otto goes over the plan, you can hear the soundtrack to Mission Impossible playing in the background.
You will enter the electrical room.
And Ving Rhames, who provided the voice for Otto, also plays Luther in the Mission Impossible series. When Vic explains why he left Garfield when he was a kitten, the first store that you see is called Jim's Comic Books. This is a reference to the creator of the Garfield comic series, Jim Davis. When we see Vic return to where he left Garfield, you can see a dumpster next to the crate Garfield was hiding in, and there's a date stamped on the side of it. 06-1978, a reference to the date that the Garfield comic series started, June 19th, 1978. There's an inconsistency when we see how Garfield and John leave the restaurant, as we had originally seen John put Garfield down, and he was almost washed into a storm drain from his tears. But during the flashback, none of that happened, and John never puts Garfield down. After Otto tells Vic and Garfield that they're ready, you can see the 2 henchman dogs hiding in the tree right above them. The way that they're lurking about like vultures is similar to the way that Snoopy lurks like a vulture in his own comic series. When Marge is watching the screens, she sees Garfield land in the cheese room, and she says,
"Jiminy Davis, the perp is the cat."
And the mention of Jiminy Davis is a reference to the original creator of the Garfield comic strip, Jim Davis. There's a mistake when Garfield's taken to the fondue area, as the sign is facing the wrong way, since it should be facing the cheese as it's coming into the area, instead of showing the cheese where it already is. When Vic dives in to save Odie and Garfield from the giant cleavers, you can actually see Odie and Garfield's eyes get left behind as their bodies slide away. But this is just for dramatic effect, as their eyes are seen to still be in their bodies. When Odie and Garfield are caught by the pound, you can spot the license plate on the back of the van. It reads JRD 728, which is a reference to the Garfield comic creator Jim Robert Davis, whose birthday was on July 28. After Garfield steps outside of his home, you can see that the mailbox is sitting in line with the fence. The post holding it up is actually a giant pencil to go along with John's career as a cartoonist. There's a mistake when Garfield crosses the road, as there should only be one lane for cars to go from left to right, but two cars abruptly stop from the left side, even though the car from the right has the right of way in their lane. When the drones arrive with Garfield's Special Order, the song heard in the background is reminiscent of the theme music heard in the movie Top Gun. After Garfield pulls off a cool stunt in the drone, he says,
"Yeah, in case you were wondering, I do my own stunts. Me and Tom Cruise."
This continues the pattern of referencing Tom Cruise and his movies in this film, as we already had references to Mission Impossible and Top Gun, some of Tom Cruise's most prolific film franchises. There's a mistake when Garfield rebounds off of the net, as we saw Vic was already well on his way back up to the bridge while Garfield was still falling, but they both wind up crashing into the train at the exact same time. During the birthday party at the end, there's a gray cat asking for cake from Garfield, and this is a silent cameo appearance of Nermal, who was a regular guest in the comic series and animated show.